explains how everything fits. Okay? The asili is the ideological core. That's key. The ideological core, meaning that if we can explain, if we can look at European behavior, look at European thought and say, how does it fulfill an ideological need? You see? A value need, a political need. Then we're talking about the asili, the nature of the asili. And that's the key. Because they're very consistent, you see, on that level. And we won't get fooled, as we usually do. So it seemed important to me that we focus on the ideological core of the culture. And that's what the asili is. Do not think of the Utamawazo and the Utamaroho as separate from the asili. They are manifestations of the asili. They are the ways in which the asili manifests itself, shows itself. Okay? All right. Anything else to be said about those concepts? Those are the three basic concepts. They use over and over and over again in the text. When we get into chapter 1, we will be talking about the Utamawazo a lot. That's what we're talking about, culturally structured thought. Okay? So I want you to be familiar with those terms. Play around with them. Some people have already told me ideas that they have. The asili might be the gene, for instance. The Utamawazo, the thought, and the Utamaroho, the behavior. You could do different things with it. The more you do with it, the better it is, because the more you're getting familiar with the concepts. Okay? Everybody with me? Good. Now, let us make it specific and say, well, then what is the nature of the European asili? And here we come with what is my thesis. Okay? And it would be good to read the Yurugu myth, because that explains Yurugu as the incomplete being, the forever incomplete being, the incomplete being that cannot be made complete. Okay? Here, the incompleteness is in the sense of lacking connection to the spiritual whole, lacking a connection that would allow you to be energized by that source. So then what happens? You lack that, puts you in a state of not only disharmony, but you're not at ease in the world, you see? You are aware of that which you are lacking. It causes you anxiety. Now, what does that sound like? Sound familiar at all to anybody? Depression? Something else. Paranoia? It should sound something like Dr. Welsing's argument did to me when I was, when I was just looking at it. She talks about, well, first of all, she's talking about lacking melanin. Right? And then she talks about their behavior coming out of the awareness of that lack. Okay? And then she does go on and talk about alienation. She talks about anxiety and so forth. So you see some similarities there, okay? In terms of approach, certainly. And that should help you. So this incompleteness brings about a chronic state of disharmony. You're going to see this come up again in their philosophies. You're going to see it come up again in their theological statements. Okay? What they say about God and human beings and so forth. Look for all of these themes. Always look for the themes. See relationships and remember them. They then seek as a surrogate or a substitute for that which is lacking, they seek power. Because through power, they can get the experience of control. Control becomes the key word, concept, phenomenon in this discussion. Control. There is this need to create the illusion of control, to have the feeling of control. There is this inordinate need. We all need to feel in control of our lives as much as possible. We also all know as African people that we cannot be in control of the whole universe, that what we need to do is understand how the universe functions and then hope to be able to use those forces in a way that helps us to live well. That's a very different concept from the European concept, okay? The Utamawazo has to then restructure reality in such a way as to make it fit the need for European control. As